Shir. This week it's on Parashat Bahaalotcha. So we'll begin in just a moment to see if there are other people who are coming in. Perhaps not, so we can get ourselves started right now, I think. All right. This week, of course, the Parsha itself is very rich with many incidents. What I want to talk about today is a turning point in the history of the Jewish people. Of course, one could make the argument that every time an episode is mentioned in the Torah, that becomes, in effect, a turning point, and that's probably true. But there are certain turning points that are so powerful, so all-encompassing, that they demand of us that we give it our attention. And that is, this evening, I'd like to deal with the issue of Eldad and Medad and the assemblage of the 70 members of the Sanhedrin and Moshe Rabbeinu's response to all of this. You can find it in Perek. Sorry. Perek Yud Aleph. The Perek itself begins with the mitonanim, those people who were the constant murmurers, the constant complainers, that no matter where they went or no matter where the Jews went, they either complained about water or heat or insufficient necessities. And Moshe Rabbeinu, in exasperation, says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and complains, and he says, even if I were to give them everything, they would still be complaining. So, and I don't have the capacity to be able to deal with all of their complaints and all of their murmurings. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, Pasuk Chav Gimel, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Yud Aleph Chav Gimel. Hashem said to Moshe, Hayal Hashem tiktzor. You think God is unable to be able to fulfill the requests in any way, or not requests, or the demands in any way? Ata tir'eh ha'ikrecha devari imlo. You will now see whether what my demands are and what my desires are will be fulfilled or not. And in Pasuk Kav Daled, the Torah tells us, Vayetze Moshe, Vayedaber al ha'am, he spoke to them at Divrei Hashem. Vayeasof shiv'im ish miziknei ha'am, and he did as he was told by God to gather 70 people, which became what we would now call a Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin is not a Hebrew word, but they became the basis of the Ziknei Yisrael. Vaya'amed otam srivot ha'ohel, and he stood them up around the Ohel Moed, where the Torah was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. The word of Hashem was given to Moshe each and every evening. And then the Torah tells us, Vayered Hashem be'anan vaydaber elav. Hashem revealed himself. By the way, the word Vayered, when Onkelos deals with the question of Vayered, he was very, very much opposed to any form of anthropomorphism, of giving God any human attributes. So when the Torah says Vayered Hashem, that Hashem went down or descended, he always says Hitkali, that Hashem revealed himself. To go up or to go down is to take up space, and God is incorporeal. And so therefore, Onkelos consistently interprets the word Vayered to descend as regards to Hashem, as to reveal himself. Vayered, and I'm going to use that interpretation too. Vayered Hashem be'anan, Hashem revealed himself through a cloud. Now again, one other thing that I've pointed out in the past, and I think this is something that bears noting here, it is, God does not necessarily have to, now there is a concept of tzimtzum. There is certainly a concept of God's, so to speak, compacting himself into this world, to be able to be a part of this world. But I don't think we have to say that when it comes to a statement like Vayered Hashem be'anan. Hashem revealed himself not necessarily in a cloud, but through a cloud. So, for example, as I've mentioned, if you have a radio program and the radio is maybe 18 inches by 22 inches by 6 inches, that doesn't mean there's a man or a woman in the radio who's speaking. The radio becomes the medium through which the communication takes place. So I think we can say here as well, Vayered Hashem be'anan. Hashem revealed himself through the anan, through the cloud. Vayedaber elav, vayatzel min haruach asher alav, and Hashem then gave his spirit upon from his spirit. In other words, it all descended upon him, okay, upon Moshe. Asher alav, vayitein al shivim ish azikenim, and it descended. The spirit descended upon the people, and vayhi kenoach alehem haruach. They said nevuah. They were actually able to. They were granted the gift of prophecy, velo yasafu, but only for that moment or two, and then it ceased. Then the next pasuk tells us, "Vayisharu shnei anashim b'machaneh." Two people remained in the tent. Shema echad Eldad v'shema sheni Midad. Eldad and Medad, they have a very small role in the Torah in its entirety, but the role they play is gigantic, as we will see in a moment. So Eldad and Medad are the two. V'antanach alehem haruach, and the divine spirit rested upon them. V'hema baketuvim, and they were prophesying among with there were 72 slips of paper that were there. They didn't go out of the tent. And what did they do? They in the camp, the general camp. Now we're going to see Yehoshua's reaction. And the young man, meaning nar here means the disciple. Moshe, and he said to Moshe, all right, the Eldad and Medad are prophesying. Yehoshuah was terribly disturbed by this, because he was the Misharet Moshe. He not only served Moshe, but he identified with Moshe. Mibchura vayomar Adoni Moshe Kilaim. Now the word Kilaim, two things at least. One is to actually incarcerate them, put them aside, separate them from the rest of the community, or it could simply be Kilaim, stop them in some form or another, stop them. Vayomer lo Moshe, and here comes the turning point of Jewish life. So zealous for my sake, Umitein kol am Hashem nevi'im. Halavai, every Jew would have a capacity to be a navi. Ki yitain Hashem et rucho aleihem. That Hashem, his divine spirit, to them. This, ladies and gentlemen, in my view, is the turning point. Is the turning point in Jewish history. Not just an interesting event that occurred, but a turning point, which to this very day we find reverberating among the Jewish people. So we're going to analyze today, to talk today about anivut, of humility. What does it mean to be humble? Of course, we all talk about it's good to be humble, but the question is really, what is humility? what really is humility from a Jewish standpoint. And the Torah itself tells us, if you want to know what humility is, you learn from Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu, despite all of the travail that he had to go through, despite the extraordinary burdens that were really thrust upon him, the Torah tells us, Va'ish Moshe anav ma'od. Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest, most humble person, kol adam asher al panei adama, more than anybody who ever lived. So now, if that's the case, we now can learn, we have ourselves the isolated example of what true humility is. So the evening discussing humility from various